Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Zabel, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. Hello children, and welcome back to Children's Bible Story. I'm your host, Reverend Jake Zabel, and join with me today again is my little acolyte, Hezekiah. Want to wave your hand and say hi, Hezekiah? Alrighty, so today's story we're going to be doing is the calling of Samuel. So the story of Samuel actually began a little bit earlier when Samuel's mother was really sad because she couldn't have a son. And she was praying to God to have a son, and she made a promise that if God gave her a son, she'd dedicate him to the Lord. And the prophet Eli had overheard her praying and said that God would grant her request. And so she did. She became pregnant with Samuel. And then when Samuel was old enough and weaned, meaning he was a little toddler, she came and she gave Samuel to Eli to look after, and Samuel was going to live in the temple. And every year when Samuel's parents came down to make their sacrifices at the temple, his mother would always bring him what?
New toys.
That's right, because he would get bigger every year and he'd need a new tunic to wear.
Yeah.
And so Samuel grew up working in the temple with Eli. Now he kind of worked as like a servant boy. He did a lot of like the cleaning and that. He wasn't doing sacrifices or being a priest or anything. He was kind of like a servant boy, cleaning the stuff, making sure the temple was looked after, sweeping the floors, all that basic stuff.
Yeah, so they could have church.
Yeah, well they could worship in the temple. That's right, Hezekiah. Now one night, Eli had gone to sleep, and Samuel was also sleeping, and he was sleeping near the ark of the Lord. And what happened? The Lord came and stood before him and called to him, saying, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel heard the voice, but he didn't recognize that it was God. He thought, who do you think was calling him?
Eli, the prophet.
Yeah, so he got up and he ran to Eli and said, here I am because you've called me. And what did Eli say?
I didn't tell you to go back to bed.
And he did. So he went back to bed. And a second time, so you want to put Eli down? And a second time, God came and called to Samuel again, saying, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel got up and he ran to Eli saying, here I am because you called me. And Eli said,
go back to bed.
Yeah, he didn't call him. So Samuel went back to bed again. The third time he lay there, and God came a third time and said, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel got up and he ran a third time to Eli, saying, here I am because you called me. Now,
go back to sleep.
No, he didn't this time. What did Eli say this time, Hezekiah? He said, if the voice calls you again, say,
my servant is listening.
That's right. And so, this time Samuel went back and he lay down. And a fourth time, God came to him and said, Samuel, Samuel. And this time Samuel did what Eli told him and said, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. And so God came and he spoke to Samuel. And do you remember what he told Samuel?
No.
He said that Samuel was going to be a prophet because Eli's sons had been naughty. Eli's sons were priests in the temple and they were doing naughty things. Stealing food, stealing money, committing adultery, doing a whole bunch of naughty things that priests just shouldn't be doing. And so God was going to punish the household of Eli and kill off all of Eli's sons. And instead Samuel was going to be chosen now as the new prophet, and he would serve in the temple instead. And so God then left him and Samuel went back to sleep. And that next morning, Eli came to him and said, so, what did the Lord want to tell you? And Samuel didn't want to tell Eli because he thought Eli would be upset. But Eli told him that he had to tell him, otherwise God would punish him. And so Samuel told him, and was Eli upset?
No.
Maybe a little, but he said, well, God's will be done. If that's what God's going to do, so be it. As he actually said, it is the Lord, let him do what seems good to him. And so Samuel grew up, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words ever fall to the ground, meaning that all his prophecy came true. And all of Israel, from Dan in the north to Bathsheba in the south, knew that Samuel had been established as the new prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again in Shiloh, for the Lord had revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord. And that, children, is the story of the calling of Samuel. Thank you again, Hezekiah, for helping out with this video. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.